Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 1 of a brand new broadcast podcast project that I decided to do. And this podcast called Grit and Growth is about leadership and entrepreneurship. And I hope to have a number of guests on the podcast over time. This won't be a regularly scheduled thing because it'll be done as is possible to schedule with the guests. So the importance of entrepreneurship and leadership, that's kind of the big question. And I feel that leadership is one of the most important things for a person, whether it be in business, politics, um, in any organization, in relationships, and even your own personal guidance and personal growth. So I think these principles really do go throughout most of a person's life. Now, what this podcast is not about is it's not about beekeeping. It's not about the beekeeping industry. It's not about things related to beekeeping. However, obviously that's going to be included because a lot of my guests are going to come from the beekeeping world. So today, I'm very excited to have John Hill with me. And John is a visionary founder of HillCo. And Hilco is a company that, in my view, has somewhat recently arrived on the beekeeping scene and has made a splash in a very short period of time. And I do know from talking to a number of people who've dealt with Hilco, they really do have a concentration on customer service. Uh, so I've read a little bit from John's website, the Hilco website, the history, but we're going to talk to John about kind of where he came from, where he's going, what he knows, what he doesn't know, and we'll just hopefully make this a casual conversation. So welcome, John.
Thank you, Brad. Good to be here.
Thanks.
Yeah, if we're going to talk about what I know, it's going to take about 2 minutes here. It's not going to be a very long podcast, Brad.
So we can fill it up with what you don't know.
There's plenty of material there. Yeah, plenty to work with.
Well, we're good partners that way because there's a lot more that I don't know.
You and me both.
Yeah, this is, I want this to just be a casual conversation, just a kitchen table talk sort of a thing, right? And
sounds good.
So let's get to know the man behind the machine here for a minute, and tell me about John. Tell me about where John grew up, early life, anything that you think might be relevant or interesting.
Yeah. So I was actually born in Rhode Island, out in the East Coast there. I lived out there for about the first 10 years, then ended up, about 12 years out in the East Coast, then ended up in Illinois here, central Illinois. My mom got married to my stepdad and ended up out here in the little town of Minonk, Illinois, of all places, a little town of about 2,000 people, which is where we now run Hilco, where we're headquartered at. And so I got interested in, so my family had a business as a kid, hardware business, automotive hardware. We actually travel around quite a bit to antique car shows and events like that and sell. We set up a booth, we'd sell equipment, sell hardware. So it's kind of not entirely unlike when we go to conventions and conferences nowadays. It was a good experience. And so, I look back and really see, God gave me a lot of really good experiences as a kid. And working with a family, working in the business, learning a lot of things, learning to talk to people at a very young age, be able to, talk to older people. I was always an extrovert, and I think most of you won't be surprised to hear that. But I just always enjoyed talking to people and meeting people and learning new things, visiting with people. So, my beekeeping journey kind of started. I remember as a really, really young kid. just I have this vague memory of my family to visit an older couple that was kind of shut in their house. Didn't really get out much. We'd go visit them, and I remember there was across the street from their house there was a big board fence, and the fence had a sign on it for an apiary selling honey or something. And I had this at least an idea in my head that there was hives of bees on the other side of that fence. And I remember as a little 4 or 5 year old kid really just being intrigued by what that looked like, what those hives looked like, what it looked like inside a beehive. And so always had something of an interest in it. Didn't really act on interest, didn't really start reading up on it until I was 15 or 16. I remember reading in a some kind of homesteading magazine that my folks were getting, an article somebody had written encouraging people of the homesteading mindset to consider beekeeping. And so that really got me going. I remember traveling in Florida some as a kid. Again, as part of our family's business, we would go past orange groves and you could see hives of bees. And I just really had an interest, that really peaked there at about 15 or 16 years old. Caught my first swarm, and when I was 16, and kind of the rest is history. So from that point on, I always had a hope of being self-employed someday, of beekeeping, bees, being a part of that in some form or fashion. I'm also an auctioneer as a side hobby. That may not surprise some of you when you know how fast I talk, but I thought maybe someday as a kind of part-time auctioneer, part-time bees, somehow I'd carve a living out of self-employment, and bees would be a part of that. So I spent in my early part of my career. I didn't go to college. My first part of my career, I spent 8 years, a little over 8 years, as a parts guy for a farm equipment dealership here locally, and that was a great experience, a great opportunity to learn a lot about a lot of things. That's really helped me. Later on in those few years, I got to learn a little bit of management experience there. I oversaw 2 or 3 other people. I was fairly young at the time, 21, 22, 25, in there, and then left there after 8 years and managed 2 different lumber yards, a couple years in one lumber yard, a couple years in a different lumber yard. And that was really a great experience too. I got to learn a lot more. I was kind of overseeing more people, especially the second lumber yard. I had a lot more responsibility, and I had a budget to manage, a P&L to manage, profit loss to manage, and people to answer to for that. So they gave me quite a bit of freedom to run the lumberyard as I saw the need to, but I had to answer for that P&L at the end of the year. So that was a really great experience. Looking back on that, I'm so thankful that I got to be there for a couple of years, and then went from there to starting this business. And so during that time, I kept bees for several years, from about 16 up through maybe 23, 24 years old. And then got married. And during that time, started having kids, got busy, and I just kind of let go of the bees for a while, for a few years. And then we moved to a place a little more out in the country, about 5, 6, 7 years ago now, 8 years ago, almost 8 years ago. And I got bees again shortly thereafter. And then I really started ramping that up. I really got excited about it again. I was again working in a lumberyard during that time. I was looking for ways to build my beekeeping into a full-time business. Well, there I'm here in a lumberyard. Didn't have any woodworking experience, but I had lumber that I could buy at an employee discount. I had a table saw at home that I bought for $5 at an auction, and I watched a YouTube video of a guy making a complete, very basic hive, no frames, but he made a lid, a crude lid, a crude box, a crude bottom board out of a single 1x12, I think it was, and just on a table saw. So I did that once or twice, and it kind of led from there. I started building more of my own boxes and trying to expand my numbers of hives. I never got my number of hives beyond about 50 or so. I was hoping to get to commercial beekeeping, run however many hives it took to make a living selling bees, queens, honey, nukes, etc. But as I was working towards that, I thought, well, I was getting better at making these hive boxes. Maybe I can start selling some of these hive boxes. And so I started, improving my process, improving my equipment a little bit. I moved pretty quickly. I moved past the $5 table saw and started getting built up to learn a little bit more about how to cut handles nice, how to cut the frame rest joints, things of that nature, box joints, and so on. And so in January of 2020, we started a simple website HillCoBees.com, and all I had at the time were hive boxes and I think a simple lid and bottom board, maybe some one-piece acorn frames. I think I was selling at the time, and at the same time, I had also been looking for a honey extractor for my own use. As I built up my operation, I was looking for a 18 or 20 frame or 24 frame honey extractor, and I wasn't really finding what I was looking for, at least at a price I felt I could afford, from the suppliers here in the U.S. And so I ended up, like it or not, going across the pond and bought, looking at some options in China, and ended up bringing in about 10 or 12 machines in there. In the first, I just kind of had no idea how to import things. I just kind of jumped in and figured, well, we'll sink or swim here a little bit, and brought in a few machines that were just pre-made machines, kind of off the shelf this factory's building over there. And when they finally got here, it took a long time. Finally got here, and they looked pretty decent. So I threw them on. But this was March or so of 2020. We just kind of happened simultaneously as extractors were happening at the same time as we were getting our little woodenware operation off the ground. We're just working out of a little machine shed on our property there at our house down in El Paso, Illinois, which is just south of Minunk here, and where we live. And so I threw those few extractors on our website and on Facebook Marketplace, and I think all 10 or 12 machines were gone in about 4 days, including the one I was going to keep for myself. And so I thought, well, we're on to something here. So
There's an opportunity.
There's an opportunity, exactly. So I guess when we talk about, growth and grit, or your theme here, I think that's number one. And it's not for everybody, and not everybody. Some of us are kind of risk takers and shoot first and ask questions later. And I'll be the first to tell you that certainly gets me into some trouble sometimes.
Yep.
But it also can be a big asset in other ways too, especially if God blesses your efforts, and He's blessed a lot of mine, thankfully. And so anyway, so we started at first. We started importing machines just from China, the honey extractors, and I realized pretty quickly that there was a need just in the local area too for here in Central Illinois. There was an opportunity for a beekeeping supply house, and so we started ramping things up. So we kind of again officially launched that website in January of 2020. By July of 2020, I was in it full time. I quit my day job and just kind of took the leap of faith, and here we go again, sink or swim type of thing.
Early 2020 is a really great time to start a business.
2020 wasn't near as bad as 2021.
2021 was really bad.
It was. So yeah, it was interesting to start during the coronavirus, and we never got too upset about the coronavirus. Just kind of, it didn't thankfully affect me a whole terrible lot. I mean, we kind of had the whole lockdown at home thing like everybody else did for 2 or 3 months there, but it didn't really affect my job. At the time I needed my full-time job. We were considered an essential business, and so I still had my day job, thankfully. But I'd come home every night, and we'd cut boxes. My wife, my 4 kids. My kids at the time were like, let's see, the youngest would have been 4, oldest would have been about, let's see, now he's born in 2011, so 20, but 9. And so, yeah, 4 through 9, 4 kids there. And my wife, she was a real trooper. She was a stay-at-home mom. And, they'd all pitch in and help as much as they could. There was times my wife and I would be out there cutting boxes till 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning to fill orders. And then I'd go sleep for a few hours, get back to work by 7 o'clock the next morning at the lumber yard. And so, again, thankfully, I didn't last too long. We went full-time fairly quickly there. But it was just an amazing first year. And we sold about 180 extractors, I think, that first year. Honey extractors of different sizes. And so it just really saw the opportunity pretty quickly there that we could really, catch fire. And so I was blessed with some people. I don't know if you stop me, Brad, if I'm going too long here.
I've got about 6 bullet points here to ask you about, and you've covered about 7 of them.
Okay.
So I think we're doing just fine.
That's about right. Okay. So you want me to keep going then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Gold, absolute gold.
Oh my, I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, and we just saw a real opportunity, and so thankfully I was blessed with both some family members and some bankers that trusted me, and so to build a business, into a multi-million-dollar business in a few years, it takes a lot of money,
Hmm.
And so I had to learn very quickly to become comfortable with debt and lots of debt. And but I think there's an opportunity there with debt, and I know there's differences of opinion out there of no, that's no good, but then a lot of people, or debt can be a problem for some people, and I'm not saying it's not for me, but I've hopefully learned to manage it to some degree, and just to be careful with it. But I mean, I have millions of dollars in debt. People think I'm a millionaire. I'm not a millionaire. I owe millions. I don't have millions, and I'm a long
Somebody
ways
else
from.
is the millionaire.
Somebody else is the millionaire. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It's
I
kind
know
of
how
funny
that
though when
goes.
people. Exactly. Yeah, it is kind of funny though. As a side note, when people see you, looking successful a little bit, business is growing. Boy, people think that you're just making money hand over fist, and that's a lot of times, at least for me, not the case always. I mean, yeah, certainly we're very blessed. We're doing fine. We're making
Yeah,
money, but it also costs a heap of money to
yeah.
keep it all afloat and to keep it going as you add payroll, as you build more buildings, as you buy more inventory. I mean, all these
Hmm.
things, take a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, but again, I'm so fortunate that I've got again a few family members, and as well as again a couple of good bankers who have really put some trust in what we're doing, and we show some decent numbers every year, thankfully. And so, so they keep feeding us as we need it, thankfully. And so, but sometimes we got to just work within what we have. If we don't have the money to do it, if we can't fund whatever we want to do, then we just got to hold off and wait till next year. But anyway, so it's just been a lot of growth, So the first year, we only lasted in that first building there at home for about a year or so, and then we moved back here to Manunk, the town I had grown up in, to a building that my family owned. I bought from my family across town here. I thought it was a big building at the time. It was about 6,000 square foot building. I thought, man, that's a big old building, but that only lasted us about another year or so before we were adding shipping containers and storing stuff back at home and different things. And then we bought a building here where we're at now, the old bread bakery here in town, and we've renovated that, and that's been good. But we've still been using the old building, the other building, and bought semi trailers and just always kind of busted the seams. But it's an exciting thing. It really is, and so we're thankful. These growth opportunities, or everybody tells me it's a good problem to have, and I say, well, yeah, it's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem sometimes.
I say that a lot. I say that a lot. It's a good problem to
Okay,
have, but it's a problem no less.
yeah. Okay, it's not original with me then. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
good. Anyway, but at the same time, it's so exciting. And again, it's this kind of thing's not for everybody. I really love it. I kind of feed off of it, and but again, God has been so good to us. I've always felt like that this was His will for it to succeed,
Hmm.
and someday it may not be. Someday He may choose to really give me a test and let things kind of slide, and if so, I'll learn from that too. But it's really been a lot of fun, and He's given me a lot of good people. We went from I was the only full time employee at the beginning of 2023. No, beginning of 2022, I was the only full-time employee, and now we're up to about 20 employees at this point.
Wow.
So still not real big compared to some of the others out there, but we're moving along and doing what we can, and yeah, we got a great team. I've been really blessed with some phenomenal people that have joined us over the years, and just keep and a lot of times as far as hiring people, it's not some of my best people is not I've hired not by having a job posting. It's just God sends me somebody, the right person happens to come along that I'm not even maybe have an opening, not really planning to hire somebody, but I see a person I just too good to pass up, and so we make it work,
Absolutely.
and
You
and
find a
usually
good
those
person, you find them something to do.
you do, and so often those people, after again, you're kind of nervous at first, like, oh boy, can I afford this person? We really didn't have a need right now, but it feels like the right fit. It feels like somebody we're going to need long term. And usually, what happens is about a month after they start, or even a couple weeks after they start, you're like, how on earth did I ever think twice about this? It's just such a
Especially
fit.
a burgeoning and growing business like that,
Yeah,
that right person will pay their own way in very short order.
absolutely,
Very short
absolutely.
order.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But that takes the leadership and the management too. It doesn't just happen by itself. But I found, I haven't been a manager of a great group of people or a large group of people, or for a long time. But I did manage a smaller group in the IT business, and
Okay.
boy, you know what, the most stark thing that I learned was if you find good people, you make their objectives clear, and you cut the leash and say, go do that. They will amaze you. They will just astound you with what they're capable of if you
It's
just
true.
stay out of their way.
And I'll tell you, Brad, I'll confess that is definitely not my strength. I do
It's not
struggle with
easy.
that. It's not easy. It's not easy. I do struggle with that, and I think to some degree, just the company has my name on it. I've been kind of the face of it from day one, and kind of, and I hesitate to say it this way, but I think you'll know what I mean. I mean, the first 2 or 3 years, even as we brought on some employees and stuff, I was, you know, as far as from a beekeeping perspective, from a business perspective, things like that, as far as experience overall, I was kind of, you might say, the smartest person in the room is the term that we would use, right? I don't really think that, but I mean, that's kind of the term that we would use.
It just kind of
And
came down to you. Everything just kind of came down to you.
It did, and yeah,
You
that's
know,
why I said not to
is
say
what
I
I
was
would think.
smarter than anybody else. It
Yeah,
just that, yeah, just again, in terms of experience and stuff like that, I was the one who had to call the shots. And now
yeah,
over the
yeah,
past couple years, now we've been bringing on some more senior people who are smarter than me, and so in most cases, and really learning for me to learn to trust those people and to just say, okay, do this. I mean, I think I don't want to micromanage, but I tend to kind of want to a little bit sometimes. That's been definitely an experience, a growing experience, and somewhat of a struggle for me over the last couple of years to learn to kind of let go of things, to trust somebody to take it and run with it.
yeah.
And I'm still not 100% there yet by any
I,
means.
I'm
So,
I'm in what I do. I'm very particular in what I do, and a lot of the things that I do in specifically really don't
mhm.
matter. But I
Yeah,
do them the way I do them, and I like to do them that way, and I like to be consistent with what I do,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's the hard part. I don't have employees, and the hard part is if I did have employees, to kind of get them onto that track that this is what's important to me, this is what's important to the business, this is your role
hmm
here, and then just do this, put like blindfold myself, right, for a period of time, and then
Yeah.
come back to that person and watch them do that same job that I was so specific with, and
hmm
watch them do that job, and more often than not I would just go, well, I'd have never thought to do it that way. That's
Right.
genius,
I
right?
know. Yeah, yeah, it is amazing. Yeah, yeah, that's something I've had to learn here too. And again, I still don't always remember it, but I've got a couple of guys here that and again, up until a year or two ago, all the different product design ideas usually came through me, or I might get inspiration from a customer or from somebody else, but usually it was kind of somewhat my idea or my plan or whatever. And now I've got a couple other guys here, two guys in particular as part of our team here that are just really really sharp guys,
Mm-hmm.
and I've and it's a struggle for me sometimes to let go and let them kind of take off on the product design and run with it. Because I'll have a general idea. I might come up with the initial kind of, okay, guys, this is what we want. This is what we're trying to do here. But and sometimes the three of us will be talking, and it'll kind of be the design of the idea will be kind of moving away a little bit from my original, idea, and so my ego gets in the way a little bit or something, and I'm
Yep,
like, I don't know.
yep,
But I've learned if I just walk away,
yep.
and let them two have at it. It's amazing the stuff they'll come up with, and it can take a completely different form, so much better than what I originally thought of. It's not even funny, and
That's the
so and
magic.
so
That's absolutely the magic.
it's
And
really hard for me to do that, but I'm getting there.
one of the most valuable things you can have is somebody with you that doesn't always agree with you,
Yes,
right? It's somebody
yes,
you can work with, but
yeah,
who will, tactfully question and respectfully challenge things. Why are we
yeah,
doing that? What are we trying to achieve by doing that? These kind of questions that make you
yeah.
like things that make me question. Like
Right,
those are the
right.
things that are, and that's something I struggle with my operation because I don't have that in general, right?
Sure,
I'm the guy running the
sure.
show and I'm the guy doing the work.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
difficult. I don't have that. I actually my first year beekeeping, actually going into my second year beekeeping, I picked up a beekeeper who was just starting, and I started to mentor her. And she is so smart. She's so brilliant and so resourceful that in about a year, she started teaching me, and now
Hmm.
I'm phoning her to say, how do you do this? Like, how do you? And she just says, well, you just do that. That's brilliant. I don't know why I didn't think of that.
Yeah, yeah, and it is amazing, and for me, a lot of times it's getting the ego out of the way. You know, taking that humble pill a little bit there. Sometimes that requires praying through that a little bit. That
Hmm.
that God gives me grace to humble myself and be willing to listen to others because yeah, it can be hard for me. I hate to admit this, but it's definitely to just be able to listen to somebody else, be able to let them take the lead on something is yeah, something I'm learning.
I started working for a man 25 years ago, and he's one of him and his brother actually ran this company I work for, and they became my leadership mentors really,
Hmm.
and also my uncle. I have an uncle who was his was a very very accomplished leader, and I respect him very much. Um, and one thing this man I worked for said to me years ago is he just said, "Never fall in love with your own ideas." And that's all he said, and
Right,
that just went
right.
around and around in my head for years. I think, never fall in love with your own ideas. Always be willing to accept that my idea wasn't the best idea,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And I think that's so profound.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Yeah,
But
yeah.
sometimes you got to stick to your guns too. So there's always a balance.
Yeah, there is. There is. Yeah, yeah. Yep. And yeah, figuring out which time it is you got to stick to, and which times you got to let go a little bit is the hard
Right.
one.
So, talking about, I mentioned business mentors and whatnot. Um, so one of the things I wanted to ask you about was, uh, who can you think of who were your mentors, influences, um, even guiding principles that you learned over, maybe earlier in your life or along the way?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, in some ways, my folks were very instrumental. Again, in mentioning it's from a young age. I got to participate in a family business, pretty small business, just my mom and dad and me and my brother and stuff. There wasn't a lot of us, but definitely some learning experience there. Watch my dad do things, and both what he did good and what he didn't do good. Right? We all have our faults, and so learn what to do and what not to do. I'm working in the farm implement dealership. I was really influenced by my boss, the owner of the company, who was a great Christian man, somebody I'm still close with now, who really taught me a lot. I really valued his just a calm demeanor, just a solid leader, somebody who always was with a steady hand at the wheel. I can
Hmm.
kind of be all over the place. I can be a little bit erratic sometimes, but somebody like him, I just looked at him as a steady hand at the wheel and somebody who just was a calming presence. I wish I aspire to that more than I am now, and then yeah, into the lumber yards. Both of my bosses in those places were both again kind of calm, steady, very supportive. Taught me a lot. Taught me how to again read a P&L and learn the financial side of things and what expenses to watch and what things like that. Watch your profit numbers, watch your gross profit numbers. If you don't hit this gross profit number, you're probably not going to be in the black on your bottom line at the end of the year. And if you don't watch your payroll and keep it down to a certain percentage, all those things were a huge blessing that I've been able to benefit from
Hmm.
now. Not that I'm not don't even have the slightest thought that I'm a really solid manager of finances. I'm kind of more the visionary type of guy, and I'm so blessed, by the way, with my wife. She's a really steady, calm person, and she has an accounting degree, which is a real blessing. And so she's kind of ended up
Yeah.
taking care of our books over the years, and she kind of helps me keep on track with things. And
See, that's interesting because when I noticed you, I watched you a little bit and I kind of thought, this is a visionary guy. This is not a detail guy. This is the
yeah,
guy who can envision something 5 years down the road, right? And
yeah,
and and sometimes you step on the lily pads, but sometimes you fall in the water, and you're not
hmm
really
hmm
concerned about whether the lily pads are the right distance apart along the way. It's like, I'm going.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's true. It's true, and that's I would say, thankfully, so far, it's overall been more of a pro than a con to be the visionary guy, but it's certainly the details can come to bite you. And
Hmm.
I've learned that the hard way a
Yes,
number of times too. I certainly have had my failings there, and by not watching the details, not keeping track of things real close. And so, thankfully, I've been able to get again. My wife has been a massive help on that all the time, and then I've got some other people around me to kind of help me watch those
that's a
details too.
great
I'm trying to
great
build that.
combination. That's
It
a great
is. It is.
combination.
Yeah. Yeah. There needs to be
I
some vision, but there also needs to be people that are kind of putting the brakes on a little bit, saying, "Wait a
it's
minute, now, do you think about this?"
I'd say my wife and I are similar situation to that. Not
Okay.
maybe not as distinct as what I'm getting from you, but yeah, like has got the accounting background. She does the accounting
Okay.
part.
Nice.
Be way simpler than what it would be for you, but
Uh,
and I do the you know contemplative pondering about what the next year in my business looks like, sort of thing. Uh,
okay. Nice. Yeah. I sense you're definitely more contemplative and planner than I am, which is good. Again, I aspire to that.
well,
I get.
yeah, and I think there's enough visionary part there for me to get it, but maybe a little more. I don't know how to put that. Maybe a little more grounded, a little more not more grounded, but a little more pragmatic about things,
Mhm.
perhaps,
I
because
would
I'm
believe that. Yeah.
I'm very much about execution,
Hmm.
and and raw visionary really isn't that concerned with execution. It's here's opportunity, here's let's just give her.
Yeah, that's probably me. And again, that can be to my detriment at times. Yeah, for me, it's just a very loose, broad, general plan, and we'll figure it out the steps as we get there.
You're a driven personality, and
I
and
guess, yeah.
I'm a and I through this training that I took, I'm
Hmm.
my profile came out that I was driven, but I was very detailed, and that's a
Okay.
problem because those 2 don't get along very well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
The
yeah,
detail is the strongest one, but the
yeah.
driven is very close behind. So the driven one
Sure.
is always pushing the detail part to say, "That doesn't
Hmm.
matter." "No, it does. I wanna get it right." "No, it doesn't matter." You got you know, so those 2 things don't get along very well, but in check, I can make them work. I can get those 2
Yeah.
horses to pull at the same speed.
Yeah, I think you probably do a lot better at that than I am. I envy that because yeah, I can. Because the weird thing with me, even though I'm not a detail guy, I'm also kind of OCD at the same time,
Yeah.
and so I can have this kind of chaos around me a little bit, and that makes me nervous as all get out. But I can't focus enough to fix the chaos. So I can move forward more efficiently. I just got to keep moving forward and let the chaos kind of pile up around me, or pile up around me and stuff. So it's kind of a mess, but overall, it's a lot of fun too at the same time.
I admire people who could work in an environment like that. That's really awesome.
I
And
don't
it's
know.
and I would say in my case, it is very difficult because, again, it's 2 very strong things that are it's like having 2 people in charge. It's like
Hmm.
I'm split personality or something. It's like having 2 people in charge that don't agree on what the
Yeah,
priority is, right?
yeah,
We got to
yeah.
get it done, but we got to do it right, So
Hmm.
those 2 people
Hmm.
always have to work together, and
Yeah.
well, yeah, it's not easy, not easy. So what about what about and I could tell in your story about your parents with the car business and
Hmm.
the parts departments and whatnot. I could tell that those would have been good mentors uh, for entrepreneurship, first of
Hmm.
all, and then how a business operates, sort of
Yeah.
thing. But what about? I'm glad that you give credit to the influence of God in your life, and thanks for the blessings, because really,
Hmm.
without His grace, we have nothing, really,
Absolutely. Oh my.
right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And and he desires nothing more than to have us, so he will put us through
Hmm.
anything that leads us to him, right?
Yeah. That's
Um,
right. That's right.
so that I think we certainly you and I agree on that principle. But
Yeah.
do you have any historical figures or authors or anyone who you kind of really admire or who helped you at
Oh.
certain points?
Yeah, I not really, nothing really comes to mind. I mean, I'm sure there are things. I did enjoy reading as a kid a lot. I had read a lot of biographies. I really enjoyed historical figures, especially U.S. American history.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, I really can't. I mean, if I was a more thoughtful person than I am, which again I aspire to, I could probably say, oh, so and so is an influence or whatever. I really can't think of something as far as a historical figure or biblical figure, even, especially obviously Jesus is a role model and somebody that I certainly, pray each day for grace to be more like him.
yeah.
Outside of that, nothing really comes to mind. Just if I could say one more thing when it comes to giving God the glory, I think we hear in society sometimes you hear about somebody who is far more successful than I'll ever be. So and so is a self-made man or self-made woman or whatever, and I've learned that is total trash. That's total
That's
hog.
right.
you
That's
know
right.
yeah, I mean, God, for one thing, God is the giver of all good things. Without him giving us the talents and abilities and the people around us, to do the things we do, there's no way. You're not self-made nothing. you know but also, in addition to, again, God giving us these individual talents, but again, he puts people around us. For me, people who, again, as I said earlier, financial support, which has been absolutely critical. Employees, just people, mentors, again, all the people. And he's got to send us customers too, right? And
Yep.
also, we're blessed to live in a society, the United States of America, or for yourself in Canada, you have a lot of blessings up there too. We can have our differences on the politics sometimes, we don't always like the people in power or whatever.
I don't think the people of Canada and the United States really have much of a conflict at all.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
that's
exactly. But I mean, overall, I mean, we live in a society where we can freely do
yeah.
business, freely engage in commerce, freely do all these things, and it's such a blessing. So, yeah, I mean, all these things that we do and accomplish are all because of God and the people He puts around us, the society He puts us in, and so anyway,
Amen. I couldn't agree more.
yeah.
Yeah, talk about the future, where you see the future of your company and associated topics.
Yeah, I would say that I'm an ambitious guy, and so I kind of aim for the top. Now I'm also okay with whatever God sends our way, but yeah, I'll say from almost day one in this, as we built this business from very very early on, I felt like we had the potential to be the number one beekeeping supply company in our industry. That may never happen, and that is 100% okay. But at the same time, I think it's good to have goals, and it's good to just do, we just want to be the best that we can be at the end of the day. And if that takes us to number one in the industry someday, hallelujah. If not, it's completely fine. If we end up being somewhere around, kind of, I think we're already in the top 10 beekeeping suppliers in the country, maybe the top 7 or 8. I don't know exactly. We're all privately held companies. Nobody knows each other's numbers exactly. But, if we end up in the top 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, ultimately that's completely 100% fine. But I would say, yeah, I mean, I do have lofty goals, and I do aim to be number one. As far as strategy to get there, you may have kind of figured this out already. I'm not really a strategy guy. I don't have detailed plans of how we're going to do this or what we're going to do exactly. We just kind of have a general wild idea and just kind of shoot, throw stuff at the wall and see what
Well, if I
sticks,
can
and
throw something
get
in there,
there.
I noticed over time, you're always adding products and product lines, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's something, right? So it seems
yeah.
to me that you're always out there with your eye open to expanding that catalog, if I could say it that way.
100%, yeah, and I guess that would be the strategy if there is one. Absolutely reaching more customers with more products, better products. We want to be innovators in the industry. We're trying to do that. I think we're already doing a fair job at that already. I mean, and the industry is a fairly quiet industry, a fairly small industry, and a little bit slow to change. And so we found opportunities. Frankly, the bar is a little bit low for innovation in some areas. And so, we haven't done anything real miraculous or real exciting, but we can still be viewed as innovators. And so, but absolutely, being innovators, offering more products, and again, expanding our product lines to reach more people. And things like, we obviously, honey extractors are a big part of what we do, have been from day one, and we've really embraced that stainless steel honey processing lineup side of things. There's a lot of opportunity there, and so, but I can sell you a honey extractor tomorrow, and I sure hope that honey extract is going to last you for many years. It definitely should. It's built to do that. And so unless you grow a lot, which hopefully you do, if you want to, you may not need another extractor for 5 or 10 years. Well, I
Yeah.
need to keep revenue coming. I can't just have revenue coming in every 5 or 10 years. So what I want to do is sell you a honey pump. I want to sell you a bottle filling machine. I want to sell you a honey bottling tank. I want to sell you all these things. So as we keep, expanding the lineup, we're able to reach those people time and time again. And it's been really exciting and honestly such an honor to see people eager for our product offerings and eager to see what the next thing coming out is and eager to have the whole honey house with Hilco products. And so it's been a huge honor to see that happen and see people excited about those kind of things. And so, but yeah, I think that's a lot of it. Just so getting our name out to more people, and
Well,
also,
your Hilco is known for concentrating on customer service as well. So
yeah.
where
Mhm.
does that fit right in there? Tell me your your theories about how customer service really works into your business model.
Yeah, well, it's basically, and I don't mean to sound cliche about this or sound, you know, real, real fancy. And it's basically just treat people like you want to be treated. It's, I mean, the golden rule at the end of the day. And it's not, again, some high and mighty, thing to live by necessarily. It's just common sense. And honestly, I was fortunate to be in the couple of industries I worked in before this one, the farm implement business, where we're dealing with farmers who were long term customers. You only have around your farm equipment dealership, you only have so many farmers, right? And as farming grows, as farms grow in size and the number of farmers lessens, your customer base actually shrinks over time, or potential customer base. You have a dealer, implement dealer every 30, at least around here, every 30 miles or so, 25, 30 miles, something like that, or even less. And so you've only got so much pie to get, you know, and so you darn sure better keep those people happy. And so we would jump through all kinds of hoops to keep those people happy. And especially farmers in the middle of season, and they're harvesting, they're planting in the spring, they're harvesting in the fall. You better do whatever you got to do. If you got to find out a customer part, if you got to drive 200 miles to go get a part from another dealer or from a warehouse somewhere to get that customer going, that's what you do. You know,
Yeah.
and in the lumber industry too, the same way. Again, you only have so many builders to work with. There's a lot of building suppliers out there, a lot of competitors we had in our business, and only so many contractors to work with. And so you did what you had to do to keep those people moving. If that guy's short 6'2" before us, no matter what's going on, you get somebody in the truck, or you jump in my case, a lot of times I jump in the truck myself and go out there and taking them 6'2" before. So if you got to be out there to crane that lumber up on the roof, that sheeting for their roof or their shingles or whatever at such and such a time of the day, you get that done. That's how you do it, or else you lose that customer. And
Yeah.
so, I was fortunate to have those experiences, and I got that mindset. I learned that mindset working in those industries, and so it was just kind of natural in this business that, well, you just do the same thing. You just take care of customers, and if you got a customer's down, you got a customer's having a problem, you got whatever it is, you just take care of the problem. You don't mess around. You don't have policies, you don't have fine print. Well, I'm sorry, but our warranty stipulates that such
Yeah.
and such. Our warranty is
Yeah.
like two
Customer
sentences.
doesn't want to hear, well, it's policy.
Exactly. I mean, sometimes I'm writing up a warranty to put in an owner's manual or something. I'm like, well, it seems like my warranty should really be longer than 1.5 sentences,
Yeah.
but it's simple. We take care of the problem,
Yeah.
and so if a customer's machine goes down, or says there's an issue of some kind, it's not like, well, you send that bad motor back to us, and then once we get that back and
Once
verify
we
that we have it in
once
our hands,
once we
we're
test it and
gonna,
we see that there actually is
yeah,
a problem, then we'll think about sending you
no
something else.
way. You can't operate that way. These beekeepers are trying to extract honey. They gotta
Right.
have an extractor going.
Yep.
And so, hey, we'll overnight you. I don't always overnight it, but if I have to, I do. If the customer's down,
Yep.
the customer needs to extract tomorrow, I'll do whatever it takes. And so we've done some crazy things. I've driven to Mississippi. I've driven to New York. I've
I've
driven to
heard
North
about you
Carolina.
driving around delivering equipment.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to do what you got to do. Thankfully, most of those situations were shipping damage issues where the trucking company kind of failed us. Doesn't
Yeah,
happen very often, thankfully. But I mean, again, in those situations, hey,
that happens.
I got to get that product back. I get that product back from that customer without a lot of hassle on their part, and I got to get the right equipment to them, the undamaged equipment to them in a short order. So hey, you jump in the truck and you drive down. So it's really, most of the time I feel like the customer service we provide is kind of the bare minimum of what we should be doing. But where we're fortunate is that this is the 21st century. The bar for customer service, as you know very well, the bar for customer service is extremely low.
Pretty low.
If a company even calls you back or emails you back or answers the
Yeah,
phone, that's
yeah,
that's half the battle, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
so
And
we
that's
don't
all
always
I
get it
ask of
right.
my customers too. If you
Right.
if you have a problem with my product, here's my cell number.
Absolutely.
You give me
Yep.
a call. I'll do what I can to make it right. I'll do what I can to make you happy. What's
Yeah.
it going to cost
Yeah.
me?
Exactly. You just got to bite the bullet. But the beauty of it is, in the big picture, those things pay dividends, right? And sometimes it's very painful.
Yeah,
There are
yeah,
times again when I got to jump in the truck and drive to Louisiana, you know, um, to exchange out something that wasn't even my fault. I didn't. It's not my fault the trucking company damaged this. $4,000 worth of equipment on a
no,
pallet, and something
it's
else
not.
fell on top of it.
The trucking
But
company is not going to fix it.
no, no, they're not going to fix it. They might give me, I'll get a small, tiny stipend back, from. But I mean, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you got to take care of your
You
customer,
could deal with
especially.
them after the fact. The
Absolutely,
customer didn't hire the trucking company,
you got that
right?
right. I hired.
The
It's my problem. I
trucking
hired a
company's
trucking
working
company.
for you, not the customer.
Yep,
So
yep.
the customer's
You got
dealing
it.
with you, and
They are. They are.
you gotta deliver.
You got to deliver, and especially this day and age. I mean, it's obviously in the age of social media and the internet and reviews. I mean, it's you can
Yeah,
get a bad name really quickly,
yeah,
and we have moved heaven and earth to avoid letting that happen. And so I'll go to great lengths to make sure that we're keeping people happy. But the beauty of it is, there's sometimes you just can't. There's been a handful of situations over the years where you just got somebody who's just going to be a pain no matter what. And I've had a couple different times where somebody's decided to leave me a bad review, and
yeah,
I've done anything I can. They just decided to be mean anyway.
yeah,
But the beauty of it is, the cool thing is that we have been able to build up enough of a reputation, enough of a following out there on
yeah,
social media and elsewhere, that on the rare occasion, very rare occasion, that somebody does go out there and want to badmouth us, I can usually count on numerous other customers
yeah.
who do support us, who are,
And
are
I
unsatisfied.
think the
They
consumers
defend
today
us.
know that a
Yeah.
thousand good reviews and one bad one, you don't even read the bad one,
Right. Right.
right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Because there's always that one person. There's always that one
Yeah.
person.
It
And
is. It is. So
you try to make them happy. I have one bad review on Google, and
okay.
now that I've mentioned that, anybody can go read it. And this person, I kind of went out of my way to serve this customer,
Hmm.
and they didn't get what they wanted, and they never didn't even phone me.
Yeah. Okay.
They just wrote this really awful, horrible review on Google, and it was sort of like, okay, you've gotten what you wanted.
Yeah.
That's what you wanted, right? Because
Yeah.
you didn't
Exactly.
want it fixed. Because if you wanted
Right.
it fixed, you would have phoned me.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. Yep.
that's it is what it is, right?
Yeah, I think same here. We've got, I think, one bad review on Facebook, one bad review on Google. They're both from the same guy who, like 3 years ago, he bought
Yeah,
his machine like 3 or 4 years ago, and it was a small issue. And I gave him, he demanded big money back for having to fix this tiny issue himself, and never heard nothing out of him for years. And all of a sudden, last fall, another little thing broke on the extractor. And again, I'd have been happy to fix this for him, but instead,
yeah,
he leaves reviews. I tried to call him, tried to engage with him, all the whole 9 yards, but like you just said, he didn't want that. He just wanted to vent and bellyache and
yeah, yeah.
be, whatever. So it's the way it goes. But thankfully,
That's
again, you
that's
have plenty
unfortunate.
of people out there who are supportive.
Um, I'm going to shift gears here a little bit onto something else, and I'm
Okay.
going to guess that I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm going to guess this next question you're going to struggle with a little bit. It's
Okay.
it's work life balance, John.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I will say I'm getting better. But it's very hard to walk away. I've been very blessed over the past year and a half, 2 years, as we've gotten again more staff, more senior staff, more people I can really rely on. That it's gotten a lot better. But yeah, it's certainly even still hard to shut the phone off, hard to walk away, hard to not worry about how much sales we've done today. When you got a lot of people rely on you for a living. When you got a lot of debt, you got a lot of things. It's a burden, right? It's something I enjoy. It's still, I wouldn't
Yeah.
trade it for anything else, but it's still a burden. And so, yeah, I'm constantly checking my phone. Okay, is there any emails I need to take care of? Is anybody upset? Is there any, what's our sales numbers for today? Are we doing enough sales to what we need? We're meeting our goals, etc. And yeah, definitely a struggle, and I certainly aspire to be somebody who does better with that. I certainly admire those who can just shut the phone off, walk away. I'm very easily distracted by nature, and so it's hard, but getting better.
Like I can't sleep at night sometimes because
Okay.
it's kind of like all the things I need to line up for tomorrow.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, oh, I have to make sure to do that, and that's that detail part. You know, trying to figure out
Yeah.
how to do that. Maybe it's a manipulation in the bees, or maybe it's I don't know what it is. But
Right.
anyway, that's what I struggle with.
I would say, yeah. I mean, I've been very blessed, and not all. I mean, I do certainly take work home sometimes, or I definitely get distracted by work. But I will say, I've heard that very, very rarely had this business keep me awake at night. To where I mean,
Good.
no, I should say keep me awake in a good way. If I'm like, really excited about something, I'm working on a new product, I'm all
Yeah.
fired up on a new opportunity, whatever. That can keep me awake in a positive way. Like I'm too excited to go to sleep. But I've very, very rarely had a situation that I thought was so bad that it kept me awake at night worrying about it. Once in a while, an employee situation where I was struggling how to deal with a coworker, and maybe I had to have a meeting with that particular person the next day, and I was kind of just dreading it, sweating it out, or whatever. We did have a situation recently where we tore down a building, an old building down the street here from us. We bought an old building last fall and tore down most of it. It was needing to be torn down, and I didn't follow the proper procedures. Again, being John, I just kind of took care of what I thought I needed to take care of. Got a local demolition permit, etc. And well, somebody turned us into the government, and for that, and so it's been something. Still not out of the woods yet with it, but it's been something we've been working through over the last couple months, and thankfully it looks like it's going to turn out okay. It's going to be a lot more expensive than I originally intended to be, but it should still be okay. But it was something I thought could almost break us there for a little bit. It was going to be bad enough. I didn't think it really, really break it, but it would be a very painful situation, and
Yeah.
really kind of bring us down quite a bit. And thankfully, it doesn't seem like it's going to happen be that bad. But it's just those kind of things can sometimes bring you down a little bit. But overall,
So your driven nature leads you to asking for forgiveness a little more than permission.
very much, absolutely, absolutely. It's the only way to fly, Brad. Ask forgiveness, or
Yeah,
easier to beg forgiveness than ask permission, right?
that's right. That's right. And
Yeah, when it comes back to bite me, I think I'll be a little more careful in some ways, at least after this experience, because again, it's been painful.
yeah, so
But
some
at the same,
regulatory thing that you weren't aware
yeah.
of,
So
kind of
they
thing.
had a
Yeah,
building. It turns out the building. In hindsight now, I know I should have had our EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, inspect the building for asbestos contamination,
oh, I see, I see.
asbestos materials, and that didn't
Yeah,
happen. I didn't do that, and so. But then somebody turned me in after the building was already down, and so now we're having to deal with that, and they're having to sort through the rubble, and it's going to be again a very expensive project, but we'll get
mm,
through it. So,
right, right. What's your big, guilty pleasure? What is just John cannot avoid, and, you know
oh my. Well, as you can tell from looking at me, I do like my food. I definitely like to eat,
bacon
and
is one of mine.
I'll go with that. Absolutely, bacon. Yeah, no problem there. Yeah, and really, I'd say avoiding the sweets isn't so hard for me, but sometimes that just good old fashioned meat and potatoes type of food, I just can't hardly
Yeah,
put that down. But
yeah.
yeah, yeah, I don't know. I'd say food, or maybe my wife chides me for scrolling through Facebook Marketplace too much. I like to do that just aimlessly, right? And just
Yep,
looking at, there's a cool truck, there's a cool trailer, there's a cool who knows what, And so
yep.
I definitely enjoy my equipment. I enjoy buying equipment. I enjoy buying buildings and things like that. So I probably do a little more of that than I need to. Seems like I've always got a different truck to drive, or a different something, or buying another forklift or whatever. So it can always kind of always be justified somewhat through the business, but
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
it's definitely overboard. I'll be the first to
My wife would be shaking her head saying, "You guys are 2 peas in a pod," is what she would
admit.
say.
It's kind of a guy thing, isn't it? A little bit.
Well, a little
Yeah.
bit, I suppose.
Yep.
Well, I kinda meant to do this early on, John. But I'd like to get it in here before we start to wrap up. I
Sure.
really appreciate you taking time to talk to me. This is just a fun little project that I have, and it's just something interesting. I think I hope you enjoyed it,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I wanted to just, even though even though this talk isn't about bees, beekeeping business, and whatnot, I wanted to give you the opportunity to just take a minute and plug Hilco as best you can to my audience.
Oh, well, thank you, Brad. Yeah, thank you. No, it's yeah, I'd say, yeah, we're just an up and coming beekeeping supply outfit. We're really excited to be in this business. We are passionate about it. We're beekeepers ourselves. I'm a beekeeper. Many of my staff are beekeepers as well. We live, eat, and breathe this stuff, and we are particularly passionate, again, as I mentioned before, about stainless steel honey processing equipment. We love it. We're so excited about new innovations, new designs, being the best that we can be in the industry by providing great products at a fair price. It's a big passion of mine, is to be able to be affordable. It's not, I can never keep things as affordable as I want them to be. Beekeeping is not a cheap hobby. We all know that, right? You know that very well, Brad. But we want to be affordable, and we want to back it by good customer service, as we talked about before. And that's, again, very much the key. We got to support our customers, and if we do that, they'll come back again and again. So I guess that's my elevator pitch. But we just have an awful lot of fun doing what we do, and we try to be the best we can
And,
be. And the chips fall where they fall.
and those 2 points there, from everyone I've talked to, you were known for customer service, and then I'll
Mm-hmm.
also touch on the affordability part because that
Yeah.
was the catalyst in your story. That's what I took from that was the catalyst for this whole ride. Was
Yeah.
I need affordable equipment, and then so I
Yeah.
made that happen. And I think other people could use affordable equipment too. So I'm going to do that
Hmm. Yeah.
for them and for me. I'm going to make a business of this.
Yeah,
So
appreciate that. If I could throw something else in, Braggs, I
yeah,
started to touch on earlier that we were start out importing our extractors from China and stuff. We are trying to move away from China, and in fact, we do it. Well, currently our tanks and stuff are rolled over there and fabbed over there. We do a lot in house. We have a team of several guys that all they do all day, every day is build our equipment, assemble stuff. They're welding, they're assembling, they're testing thoroughly, they're greasing, they're lubing, they're doing all kinds of things to make sure they're putting out solid products. So while we do rely on overseas manufacturers a lot, we do work very hard to do as much here in house as we can, and at the same time balancing that affordability factor of it too. And so it's not like we're just bringing stuff from China and just dumping it here. We do a lot in house, and we strive to do as much as we can. So want to throw that in
and
there too.
and in that, and I really appreciate that. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
big fan of domestic purchases,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
I do understand the global marketplace and the necessity for certain things. Um, but in that, I'm under the impression that you don't just pick up, a website and go to Alibaba and click and send me 100 of these. Like these are spec. You're
Mm-hmm.
very involved in the specs of this equipment and
Very much so.
controls on that, aren't you?
100%, yeah, and it's gotten more and more that way as we've grown. It did start out again though, as I talked about, the very first extractors we sold in 2020, and we're pretty much off the shelf machines. But very soon after that, we started again as we learned what worked, what didn't. We got design ideas from customers. We had a few little flaws there with those early machines. We're trying to fix. We're trying to constantly trying to improve. And again, very passionate about where people kind of drive customers nuts sometimes because like, oh, every time I buy a piece of your equipment, the next year you come out with a better one. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of the way it is. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I feel
yeah.
bad about that for those people. At the same time, we're never still going to stop innovating and improving. And so, yeah, it's very much. And now, now the way it works, basically, I have a full-time CAD design guy on staff, and so we're designing this stuff from scratch. Vast majority of the time, we're designing this stuff from scratch. We're sending those specs over to our factory in China, our factory in Turkey. Starting to use a factory in Turkey a lot more now, and trying to pull away from China a lot more. We're also using a factory in the United States, in California, some now. We're trying to do as much with them as we can, as they have capacity, and as we can make things work as a slow process. Using a new manufacturer, working your designs in, getting all the little details worked out. It takes a lot of work, a lot of time. But yeah, very much so. We're specing this stuff. We're involved in every detail. We're having them send us samples. We put them together. We test it. We try it out. Oh well, that looks pretty good. But we need this little thing changed. So
Mm.
here's a new CAD drawing of that, and it can be really a time-consuming, a very painful process at times. Really waiting and more waiting while this gets figured out, and while we wait for that new part, and but it's worth it in the end. And so we're really striving to get it right the first time. And again, as our capacity increases, as our engineering abilities increase, we're able to do that more and more often. Where we're really able to, kind of get it right the first time, spec it out, get the design hashed out, and send it over, and they build it to our specs, and then we take it from there. So it's just keeps getting better and better that way.
That's really great to hear that it's not just import export kind of, you know, it's really getting involved in exactly what the marketplace needs and quality equipment that's going to last. Your warranties are really good, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They are some of the best in the best in the industry. They are. Yeah, and that's just part of the kind of the old fashioned customer service thing. A part of it on one hand, and on the other hand, it's also just here a couple 3, 4, 5 years ago as we were getting started. I needed people to have confidence in my product if
Hmm.
they want to take a chance on Hilco, and so we put great warranty on it. And yeah, the warranty is really we just don't really even worry about whether it's in warranty or not. I mean, I had a guy we've had a customer in Ohio we've been working with here. He had a problem with one of our very first machines, and it's way out of warranty. He didn't even buy it from us, so technically it wouldn't be under warranty
Oh,
regardless because he bought it from somebody else. And it's like,
I see.
we're just gonna take care of it. We just want him to have a good machine. It's got our name on it. We want him to have a machine that he can use, and so we're not gonna worry about a little bit of money for a motor, a little bit of money, whatever. Just figure it out. We'll just take care of it, and
But
that's
you
just
you've
kind of
got
what
to
we do.
back that up with quality too, because you can't
We do.
saddle your company with a warranty on equipment that's just never any good, right? So that
Absolutely,
dovetails
absolutely.
to higher quality too.
It does. It forces us to make sure that we're doing the right thing with quality because, yeah, we can't afford to, years down the road keep paying out, warranty, sending free parts all the time. And so, absolutely something we strive for. We test, but sometimes it's really hard because, you can test something you think very thoroughly. It's just like a car company, just like any company. Every company has warranty claims. Every company has issues. Because you can test something out the yin yang in your shop and your test facility and whatever the big companies, all kinds of scientific ways they do things. But until you have
Yeah,
5,000 of that car out there, until I have 1,000 extractors out there with that motor on it, with that design, you can't. The problems don't always show up. And so, but
there's too many variables, right?
yeah, there's a lot of
And you know what
variables.
the
Yeah.
old saying is, you can make something idiot proof, but the world will create a bigger idiot.
Well,
And I'm
yeah, I
not
suppose.
calling your customers idiots, and I don't want you to do that
No,
either.
but it takes all kinds, and we have
No,
our
there's so
customers
many
come from a
variables.
variety of.
You don't
Yeah,
know all of the environments, all of the different things, the ways things are being,
absolutely.
all kinds of variables. You can't test all of that.
Yeah,
It's
and we're
impossible.
learning. Yeah, yeah. And some of that's what we're starting to try to do more and more now too. Is if we're testing something, we send one to a customer who we know has had issues with something else in the past. And hey, you try this. Does it work for you? And then we go
You
from
try
there.
break
And
it.
so, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
I could be that customer.
Okay,
I'll
okay.
break it.
I even hesitated to say that as I was starting to say that just now. I'm like, I'm going to have a whole raft of people volunteering here. It's the
Good
truth,
enough.
but it's a great thing. It's such a great thing that we have customers eager to see what we're doing next, eager for our
Yeah,
products. It's such an honor.
good,
Yeah,
good. What a great conversation.
thank you.
I'm so pleased.
Likewise.
Thank you, John. It's really nice to get to know you a bit and put a story behind kind of, when you watch a business and you watch a person running a business, a story starts to formulate, but
Yeah.
there's so many blanks and to fill in that you filled in a lot of those, and I really appreciate it.
Okay.
And
Well,
thank you for
thank you, Brad.
kicking off my very first podcast. I hope it won't be my last, but I've got at least one more guest kind of
Okay,
who's agreed to do it. So we'll
good.
see what happens.
I'm sure it won't be your last. And yeah, it took us about a month, I think, or better to finally get this thing scheduled. Thank you so much for your patience with me on that.
Oh, that's not a problem. Like I say, it's just a hobby, and there's
Sure.
nothing riding on it. And I really appreciate you continuing to be able to rotate and let's schedule this day and let's schedule another day, and it's not going to work, so let's schedule it again. I appreciate that
I'm glad we finally got it to work. Thank you for your
consistency.
patience again
Yeah, I
there.
really
Yeah.
appreciate that. I do. So
Yeah.
I guess that's wrap up. I truly appreciate it. Thanks to everybody for watching this episode, number one, if anybody is watching. And We look forward
I'm
to.
sure there's thousands of them out there, Brad. There's
Oh, there'd be
thousands of them out
thousands.
there.
There'd be thousands.
Millions, millions.
Literally, there'd be millions. Trust me, there'd be millions of people.
Huge, huge.
Nobody's ever
Yeah,
seen a podcast like this
exactly.
ever.
Everyone's talking about it.
Trust me.
That's my man. That's my man. Yeah.
Okay, well,
Good
thanks
times.
again, and
Thank you,
thanks
Brad.
everybody for watching. See you next time, everybody.
Have a good night.